What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your daily creative reading. And at the end of this video, well, in the middle, you'll see the timestamp for Taurus. So we're combining things, right? Thought it would be an interesting way of doing things. So this is for November 18th. We're going to hop on into that. I'm just going to take my watch off, though, because it's bugging me. I don't like the weight of time. It's not really that dramatic. Nonetheless, so let's take a look here. I'm gonna pull from the Hero's Journey Oracle for you today, trying it up differently every day. So let's check this out. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives for and setting the foundation for Taurus as well? People might be like, how does that work? But at the beginning of these readings, I'm finding it's quite interesting. And I was doing some for myself as well before doing this format. And I found it interesting how the thematic overview can connect to collective readings. But then it also goes into a more specific branch. So it's just neat. So, Hero's Journey. Make the grade with flying colors. Remember, you signed up for this. I almost see this as like, while I was meditating, like I just did a little, sunk into my body for this particular reading for this day. And what came to mind was like this spiral of energy coming down, into your energy through your crown chakra. And it was almost like that DNA spiral downwards. And it was like the purple of the crown energy center. And that's what was coming through. So it's quite interesting that there's something similar like this. So make the grade with flying colors. I think too that this is also about releasing expectation and make the grade with flying colors. It's not about the stress of like, waking up on mark day and being like, oh, did I pass? Did I make it? Sorry, my collar's driving me. Yeah, there we go. Did I make it? Did it work? Ooh, and like you're kind of stressed a little bit. I think it's more so remembering that you signed up for the lesson, not for the specific experience of getting it perfectly all the time, right? Yesterday we had North Node come out, so that could be adjacent to the development of those skills. The reward. Wow. I feel like there's more here than what meets the eye. Interesting. The reward. Celebrate your magnificence. Maybe there's more to you than what you're allowing others to see. That can be weird, though. How is that? Give me words, spirit. My guides. It's not like you've been hiding yourself. Celebrate your magnificence is about like tucking away the parts of you that others want to celebrate through dismissing compliments, through dismissing other things. Like there's a way that where people are like, yeah, let's celebrate you. Let's do this. And you're like, it's okay. I'm just, like it's, I think about it with hockey teams where you have those players who are incredible when they can like see 6 plays ahead of where the one play is. It's brilliant. I'm definitely a Colorado Avalanche fan. Gotta do my shout out. But there's a player on there, Cale Makar, and he's the defenseman for the team. And you can see like he just sees these plays that are absolutely wild. Hence why he has won so many awards at like 20 something. He's so young still. Brilliant player, but that's where it's like you're seeing 6 steps ahead, and that's your gift. That could be a spiritual gift that you have through intuition, but like it's like you can map the plays before the other players even hit the ice. And it's like you're not celebrating that magnificence, and you came here to know your power in that. You came here to know your experience of yourself in that. But there's a way that you just kind of dismiss it because you just make the dance look effortless. It could be dancing, but it's like you're dismissing that. You are invited. Suit up, show up, and open up. Maybe you feel like you have to get permission before you show up in that full depth and breadth of expression in a way that owns the power of it and owns the skill. Because you've refined it. You're refining it. But this is just about stepping into that power now. And we're going to get into the actual spread itself. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives, please? Messages for my daily creatives. Ooh, 7 of Swords flew out. Sorry, 5 of Swords, but like in reverse. Reverses, I don't tend to read them, but that like, it almost felt like, it felt a little bit like someone was just, it's very Aries energy. Not like that it's a bad thing, but it's not at all. But it almost felt like someone was like, to like, they were just like, to something. Like they just, and they were letting it go. Like, interesting. But maybe the call is standing up for yourself and like choosing conflict well. Like you're not choosing conflict for the drama. You're choosing like maybe you perceive conflict will come from expressing yourself in the way that you need to, right? And you need to you need to. So and I think the 5 of Swords as win at all costs, and because it was in reverse, it's almost like it's like how you perceive it to be, so you don't stand up for yourself. And stand up for yourself just meaning like, what do you want? Expressing that, right? Expressing what you want. Whether it's like restaurant choices or, topics of discussion. Yeah, the Strength card came out. That's part of the refusal. It's like you're not owning your own power here. And if this is work related or more connected to projects that you're working on, it's almost like you have to have more confidence in what you know, right? And that's where like that's again it's coming through with this like I don't know why, I mean like I know why I love the Colorado Avalanche and I get every chance I get I like to cheer on my team, but I think about that with that reference, right? Like you're 6 plays ahead of the rest of the teams, and that's like your intuitive gift, right? That's your gift. That's not something you have to work on. That just it's like you see it. And you don't express it because it's just part of you. So it's not something that you've really had to work on or work with because you're just there. Like it's just, it comes to you. You have to work on the skills around it to realize it as a gift. Yes. But there's a way that it's like the refusal is like, it's so emotionally fulfilling to you, whatever this is, or it's so meaningful to you that you just don't see it as like, something that you should have confidence in because it's just like there, right? Like it's just there. It drops in and you're like, well, yeah, I'll just do that. But that's something that not everyone has. So it's almost like seeing that as your gift or your skill. Because abilities we work towards the realization of or things like that in some way. I'm going to open that window here. So it's like we're realizing that as a skill and stepping into our power and the confidence piece. It's like you have faith in your ability to do this, but you don't see it as a source of pride or confidence. And it's almost like maybe you see that as a way that it's like a gateway to a power struggle, right? Like maybe that's where that comes from, is like you're seeing that as like, well, that's just going to turn me into this kind of person, right? And it's going to pull me off of the path of fulfillment and meaning. It's going to make the work less meaningful. I could be talking to someone who's like going in their mind like side hustle or hobby, right? Like for example, I have hockey cards, and I when I was younger I used to collect them and loved it, and now I just have a couple, like a little bit. I got into it somewhat over the pandemic, and that's definitely not something that I could ever turn into a side hustle because it needs to be like just a hobby because I don't know enough and I don't care to know enough either, right? But that's where it's like there's something about this energy where it's like the confidence and fulfillment piece, right? Maybe you feel like if it's something that you have confidence in yourself with, then it's like it takes away from fulfillment or something like that. Sorry, my roommate's cat is in here somewhere, and I haven't seen her in a little while, and I heard rustling. She's just a year old, so she's still a kitten, which is very sweet. She's a darling. I've come up with already 7 stupid names for her. It's great. It's like my gift to her. Okay, so what came out here? Wow. I feel like it's taken you some time to see this. This is the energy of what could become a tower if it goes unchecked. And I almost get, it was the Hierophant in reverse. I don't read reversals, but this is coming out in this reading that it's important to. So I'm just going to roll with it. But I have the Ace of Swords, the Hanged Man, and the Hierophant. And it's like you have this knowledge about yourself, because it's almost like I'm getting this as like self-awareness. Like there's a self-awareness here, specifically with the Ace of Swords. There's like a self-awareness. But the reason why it's a tower is because you don't see it as something that you can dedicate a path to. Like you don't see it as a path to higher knowledge, to higher expressions of yourself. This is your energy as well for Taurus later. So we're going to find out why you feel like disempowered a little bit. But I think that's the tower. It's like you realize this disempowerment, regardless of whether you're a Taurian or not. And Taurus doesn't have to be just your sun, moon, rising, or Venus. It can be in other aspects of your chart, houses in particular, right? I was talking to my friend about this, and I said, while I am an Aquarius sun, moon, and Gemini rising, and Sagittarius and Venus, technically the houses and the expression of those things in the houses would make me a Sagittarius sun, Capricorn moon, Aries rising, and Libra in Venus, right? So seeing those things in the way they talk to each other, and also if the message resonates, it just freaking resonates, right? Like don't get too bound up in it, because spirit speaks to us in many different ways. So yeah. But I think this is self-awareness. And I think the Hierophant is in reverse a little bit, because maybe you felt like it's not a path to something higher. And the tower, like the tower aspect, is that it's like something has to shift so that you can see it as something that opens up this part of you, this more dedicated path, this more dedicated aspect. Because I feel like this is also devotion, right? Like it's like you feel like it's not, maybe you feel like it's something you can't devote yourself to in that way. Like how do you develop something that just comes naturally to you, right? And it could be something along those lines. And honestly, like maybe the call is to be a little bit more it's not a stubbornness necessarily, but I see this as like really sticking to your guns here with what you want to do. The Five of Swords is more winning at all costs, but like when you don't stand up for the right things, then you lose at every cost. Like you lose at a cost too, right? So it's finding the balance there. Your protagonist energy is the Three of Wands, which is almost like trying to stay in a place of positive expectation about it on the one hand. But then on the other hand, I get not planning so much that you miss the now, right? Don't be so in your head. This is your antagonist energy in the hero's journey spread. Like the King of Swords is your antagonist. So it's like, don't be so in your head that you miss the moment, right? And that's like, it could be translating. I feel like there's somebody that is like side hustle to actual like business, like something that you just do casually. I'm hearing hobby blogger. I don't know. But I mean, what the pandemic, right? The Great Resignation, the pandemic has really highlighted for so many people what matters and what doesn't. And a lot of the time, the things that we think matter don't, right? We can survive with what we, going into survival. If we look at it through that portal, like what do I need every month to live off of in order to have a good life that's my own and to support myself and all of that? Usually it's not as extravagant as you might think, right? It's not. It just isn't. And what do you do to cope with the disconnect that comes from doing something that you don't really like? But I feel like, again, I'm going back to seeing 6 plays ahead of other people. And I'm not seeing it as connected to that. Or even adjacent to it. I'm hearing netminder. There's a lot of hockey references here, but it could also just be like, I used to play, when I played road hockey a lot, I played in net. So I played goaltender. I played the position of goaltender. I love it. Studying Patrick Waugh and all these other different goalies, for their techniques. And I think of Waugh just because of the butterfly. So if you've ever done netminding and goaltending, but it's just the techniques that, like, you may feel like you're just kind of like you're in a position where you have to like block shots or catch them, like there's things coming at you. And to me, that I loved that in sport. Like I just like that. It's like a good kind of, it's eustress, right? It's good pressure. but it's like integrating that, and those moments where like everything gets super still because you're in that flow state. But I almost feel like maybe there's a way that you're seeing steps ahead, and the way that it's expressing in your world right now is where it's exhaustion. Like it's out of survival. It's like a mechanism that isn't about joy, that isn't about connection. And that's where this kind of power struggle with fulfillment comes in. And I'm really seeing that now, right? Like you could feel this sort of internal confliction because you're outside of your conviction, right? Internal confliction because you're out of conviction. That's the Five of Swords in reverse. A lot of people say you could say it's a release of conflict, but it's how it's coming through here. Now, the main challenge that you're overcoming is the Lover's energy, which is actually really interesting. That's some Gemini energy. You could have that in your chart. But the main challenge, I think, is about choice, but also like choosing what connects you to other people, because when you're in your joy, connecting to other people flows marvelously. It just flows perfectly. Like it's not something that's so effort filled, because you're showing up as yourself, like your whole self, your whole ass self is showing up, right? So that makes it easier to connect with people because you are being seen. You are showing up in your authentic self, right? Regardless of whether it's like showing up as like the person that's like, I can do this and 6 plays in advance and I get that and there. Like it's not just it's I guess it's like my internal voice. I don't know. It's my inside voice. But it's like you can show up in that energy, and it's like choosing from that place. Rude. I don't know if you heard that. It's definitely sounded like that truck had some indigestion, but this is like, it's about connecting to other people from a place where you're choosing your highest expression. And that makes all the difference in the world. It's also some communicative energy. Like, what are you communicating about yourself when you're in that energy? And maybe there's some uncertainty that you felt about it. I'm just going to have a sip of my lemon water. But yeah, like, what are you communicating about yourself? It's kind of about being seen, I feel, too, with the Leo energy as part of this refusal. Like, maybe it's like, maybe there's like a vulnerability to being seen in your joy, right? To being seen in your joy. So you just kind of mask it a little bit and say, oh, I'm you're just like, yeah. Like you're trying to be like humble about it, but like there's a way that you like being seen for that. So just let yourself be seen for that. Because then it won't come out and be expressed in a way that makes, like, if you worry that it makes you look like a certain way, it's like it won't do that if you're just integrating it into part of you. How are we overcoming this? I feel like I just kind of, Spirit was like, here's the overcoming. Yeah, King of Pentacles. It's like, it's seeing yourself as that, with that rich depth. It's like seeing yourself with that, I don't know, with that depth of expression. It's very Taurian energy, but also some Capricorn too. I do get that there's something about the Taurus, like the eclipse that just happened at the beginning of November. I don't think it was a shakeup. I feel like there's a way that you're regulating yourself right now. Like, for me, the King of Pentacles is not just about outward expression, but internal stability too, which is self-regulation, right? So I feel like there's a way that you're regulating, and not regulating as in mitigating. It's like regulating as in consciously choosing what gets to matter to you, consciously choosing what matters and why. And I feel like that changes things for you a little bit, because it's like you're allowing yourself to be shown up for the joy of it. To be shown up? Interesting. To be shown up. I mean, you could be dealing with conflict like that. Like, to be shown up. Like, maybe that's what you feel. Like, maybe you're worried about that. Like, the hit to your confidence if someone can do it better. But, like, newsflash, everybody can do something that we do way better than we can. And it's not about comparing in that way. It's not about comparing it or ourselves to where others are. It's about looking at what we need and how we meet our own needs, and how we also show up to share the light with others, right? It's not about that stuff. I don't know. What are we waking up to? This is the awakening, things that we're awakening to. Justice. Shit just got real. No, I'm kidding. I mean, like, who didn't say that during this last eclipse? Like, what? This is some Libran energy, though. So I think that what you're waking up to is kind of like doing right by yourself, right? Like where this, I almost see these as like 5D expression of a specific energy, and then like the concrete everyday, like the minutia. Let me just push the mic off. I had to use a different stand because my microphone stand decided that it was going to do its best imitation of garbage. So, which sounds really harsh. It just stopped working properly, one of the springs, so I've got to fix it. But, yeah. So you can't see the stack of books, but it's here. So the Justice card here, though, is, I think the Libran energy is showing up here is like, not just a sense of doing right by yourself, but I think that you're doing right by the way that you connect to others, and something really, there's like a depth and long-termitude. That's not even a word. We're at that speed today, friends. Traveling at the speed of things that don't even exist yet, but, traveling at the speed of things that don't exist yet. I gotta write that down. That's really interesting. The reason why it just sort of like, it sort of popped for me was it's like traveling at the speed of that which does not yet exist. And that's really cool, because that means your manifestations are like bam, 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 bam. And that's sort of like alignment. Like I almost see this as like alignment in a way, where your everyday is lining up to the higher vision you have. And maybe it's just because you weren't allowing yourself to be seen, right? And I see this as connected to the Ace of Swords here, where it's like you're aware of yourself, but how were you expressing that knowledge as coming from something higher? Right? Whoa, let me just, what do you mean you can't see them all? But it's like this Ace of Swords is being wielded in a way that does justice to this self-awareness that you have, and to the way that you weren't really seeing it as a higher knowledge or a source of higher knowledge. And I think allowing that to be an anchor for you, right? So I think the Justice card here is like, it's almost like the path that you took to get that was like you had to be not in your head, because of the King of Swords in the antagonist position. So getting out of your head and enjoying the moment. That's not what the Three of Wands represents here, but I almost feel like that's sort of a crucial point to getting to where you need to be in terms of what's happening with your creative projects and your creative energy. Like there's this birthing. I'm seeing the Empress card. Yeah, there's a lot coming through. I'm seeing the Empress card, and I feel like you're going from this place of sort of being a netminder, and like that can feel like an Empress energy where the game comes down to how you perform. Yes, the defense, the defense does make a difference, but having a netminder that's like solid in mind, where they don't let the chance of the crowd get to them, where they don't let the game itself get to them, right? There's so much pressure there, and I loved the mental game and the strategy that would go into being a goaltender. And I love watching teams with like seasoned netminders play, because you can see the ways that after they, being down 2-0, and then a team comes back to win 3-2, right? Like it's like that is in part the goaltender too, as much as it is the forwards, the wings, and the D. Like and the center folks, but there's so much. There's like a beauty in that, and what I'm getting is that, because of the level of strategy that you had to put into that. I don't know why netminding is coming up. You could have played goalie. You could be goalie or a goalie, or feel like it at least. You could be the goalie of your family. Yeah. But I'm getting that there's like a way that it made you feel like an Empress. But the Empress is a manifestation energy. It's not just blocking shots. It's also making plays, right? And it could, like I'm seeing so many hockey references. It's kind of wild. But when the other team pulls their goalie because the team that you're on is up, and that's how you can get the points, because you're so good that you just felt like that was the only way you could score. But there's like goalies can get assists and different things. And that's like where I feel like the Empress energy is coming from, where it's like you're standing in a place where you see that it's not just about winning the game. It's not just about winning the game. It might also be about the assist. It might also be about the ways that you enjoy the moment. It might also be like it's like you're seeing something about so many sports references. And it's not like, you know, and I'm seeing stick handling as part of this here. Like the King of Pentacles is like stick handling, where, you know, it's like you just make the puck look like butter. Like it's just like the plays are so smooth. Like it's just like bam, 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 bam. And you see it, right? But again, that's part of, I'm talking to someone who can see 6 plays in advance. And for those wondering, Cale Makar is a Scorpio, so he's not a Taurus, but the Justice card, but actually that's really interesting because of the Scorpio eclipses. And like, I mean, starting this year, of course they would have won the Stanley Cup, right? That's so cool. Anyways, I feel like you're not just learning to do right by yourself. I think this is also being inside integrity with how you're expressing in the everyday and allowing joy to lead. I think of this Justice in terms of Libran energy, which is also Venusian energy. So some Venus in terms of the 7th house and like the beauty of the long term. The beauty of the long term, where it's like the long-term connections and contracts, be they expressed in people, with soulmates, with soul, you know, group members, soul family. And that's where I feel like maybe this allowed you to be outside of the long term. The Hierophant showing up in reverse, right? Or it was like it allowed you to be outside of that. So you didn't have to really dive into that energy per se. Not of long term in terms of non-committal, but I almost feel like there was a way that it was preventing you from investing. Like you couldn't invest. And I feel like that's where you're able to now because of seeing this part of yourself and allowing it to show up and it to lead specifically is what I'm hearing. So what's the main theme here, Spirit? What's the main theme for my daily creatives before we flip on over into the Taurus reading? So we had the 7 of Cups come out, which is, I think there were a lot of choices, maybe choices that you felt like you had to make. There could have been a lot of distractions too. A lot of distractions. Because when you're searching for fulfillment, and I feel like that was part of this refusal, right? Like you were not, even though something fulfilled you, you weren't seeing it as a strength because you didn't want to, or you were talking yourself out of it because you were so, this self-awareness, like you can be aware of yourself, but you can also be outside of awareness of other aspects of yourself. And I feel like that's part of this Justice energy, where it's like you're realizing that. And I think that you're pulling away from distractions. You're not as, and distractions not as in like squirrel, like you're like not like that. Like, I mean, having ADHD, distraction and I are like, right? But it's not like that kind of distractibility. It's more so that there were so many things. There were so many things that I'm hearing sink your teeth into. Like, it's like, yeah, sink your teeth into. And I think this is it's like looking back, not from a place of I almost feel like looking back to see what you were good at in the past and what meant something to you. Oh, the camera just shifted. There we go. Well, you can see some of the decks in my journal. It's nothing profound. State secrets. And I mean, like the lovely view of the air conditioner. We're working on it. We're working on different settings, but I feel a bit like this 6 of Cups is showing up here because like you're looking back, there's a reflection period. And I think the main lesson here is that whatever makes your heart sing, do more of that. Because there are certain things that you're just good at that maybe, you know, and I've been learning this in different ways where it's like things that you're just good at that you don't think you can actually do anything with, right? For me, it's been writing and even the tarot stuff here, right? Like it's like you get the knowledge, but it's how do you integrate it and move forward? Because there's something here that just makes life a whole lot sweeter. A lot of water energy, Cancerian energy here. But it's like it's like something just makes life so much sweeter when you do it. And the way that you do it makes it sweet for other people because it when we stand not in our power, but when we stand in our presence because we're integrating the parts of ourselves that we don't think anything of, we just are those things. We are those skills, those traits, and allow them to shine. Wow, like that means something to the world. When people say like, be the light, be this, and it's like that's what they're referring to in a way at least. So I'm going to leave it here, and then we're going to hop on over to the Nope. This is the Taurian reading. You could, so I haven't done Cancerians, you know what I'm trying to say. Good Lord. I haven't done Cancer's reading yet, obviously, because I'm going through, but you could have Cancer in your chart, so it might be worth giving that a little look-see. So we're going to do a timestampity stamp. Yeah, 29:45 sounds great. So we're going to get into the Taurus reading now. Yeah, so let's do this. Which deck do you want me to use, Spirit? Oh, I'm hearing Portal. This is the, what deck was this? I have my little box here. There we go. Oh, Wisdom of the Hidden Oracle? Or Wisdom of the Hidden Realm. This is like one of the older Baron Reed decks. I use the Enchanted Map for Aries and for yesterday's daily creative reading. Now again, this is for Taurus, but if you don't have Taurus in your chart and you're just following over from the daily creative reading, this could also still be for you, so check that out, okay? So Wisdom of the Hidden Realms, the Horse King, Assistance and Control. This almost strikes me as more Chariot energy. Just in terms of the movement forward and like the integrative, like it could also be Knight. I'm hearing Knight of Pentacles. Fascinating. Okay, so that's really interesting to me because it landed on the King of Pentacles. So Knight of Pentacles, slow and steady. Yeah. The Ringmaster of Scrutiny. I feel like what just came to mind was like a family dinner. And like there's that one, you're like, well, aren't you just the Ringmaster of Scrutiny? I feel like it's almost like what I'm getting is like slow and steady is how you need to take this, Taurus. There's something really important that you need to offer. And I feel like the Chariot is like your best self going forward into something, or with an energy. There are more ways to go about this than you may believe, but I think that as you do things in a more steady pace, the Horse King, again, it's coming across as King of Pentacles. It's not the interpretation of the card per se, but it's how it's coming through. So I'm gonna run with that. So this though is like, it is a slow and steady pace, and this is where it's like you find assistance on the path, assistance and control, right? It can make you feel a little bit more in control, even if there are things shifting and changing. But I feel like Spirit is like laying on the doorbell, right? The invitation. You are invited. Spirit's kind of laying on the doorbell here, specifically with like the Strength card and the Nine of Cups. Like there's something that is, when I see that in the refusal position, it means that there's some aspect of yourself that like you've been neglecting, right? There's some way that you've felt disempowered. It also strikes me as imposter syndrome, because what's on the other side of fulfillment, right? Like, or lack thereof. The Ringmaster of Scrutiny. I almost get this as like a magician energy a little bit, like a facet of the magician. So the multifaceted, multidimensional, it could be something there as well. Or something to that. The Ringmaster of Scrutiny. You could also be navigating where you feel like you're like all eyes are on you. And that can be a really difficult energy to navigate, because how do you create under that pressure? You just don't. You can't, right? You can't. So, and I mean, maybe you can, but it's like releasing yourself from that, because it's almost like a mental prison. Queen of the Light, illumination, enlightenment, celebration. Yeah, I feel like that's what's actually calling you right now. That is what's calling you. And I feel like you recognize that, and that's who you're being called to be. The spiral dancer, circuitous route, circuitous route perception. And that's where it's like you're kind of being called to, this is like management of the details, right? And again, the Justice is like, it came across as the minutia, right, of the everyday. So my darling Taurians, I feel like this is you being so grounded in the details, being really grounded in the details and in that minutia. But there's something about the spiral dancer. And if you look at this here, this is the reward. Celebrate your magnificence. And that strikes me a lot as the spiral dancer, right? Spiral dynamics. It was from Maureen St. Germain's book. And I mean others as well, but that idea, there's like, and it's also it's like a psychological concept, but it's like, how do you conceptualize? And again, was it this? I think it was this reading actually, where it was like a spiral energy coming down in the meditation at the beginning, like it was that double helix, but spiraling downwards. You could be like, I hope no one's in a downward spiral, but the information coming in, I feel like it's like this sort of arrival. And that's where it's like you're being called to play in the energy of this light, as opposed to the depth of the details, right? Where this is trying to put a plan into action, right? 3 of Wands. And that might be your strength, but there's something higher that you're being called to do right now. And it could be light codes. It could be, I think about folks with autism and or those who are on the autism spectrum. And when like stimming, for example, is like, I have different stims and whatnot. But it's like, for some folks, it's like, I wonder if it's a way of the way that it feels is like moving energy, and that's not necessarily, I'm not going to project that onto everybody, but for some it could be. And I'm thinking, I saw an ad at one point, and it was for Mind Valley, and the head of Mind Valley was doing some movements with his hands and manipulating the energy before his day and literally changing the energy in it. So I feel a bit like that's like, it's like maybe working with that and doing hand movements. It could be dancing and like feeling your way through the energy with your hands, right? Because we know when you do this and you just do that, you can feel the energy, right? You can feel it. And there's something about that. It could be the embodiment, like you're embodying energy work. I could be talking to a Reiki healer too, or even just body work healing. Yeah. But there's something about that where it's like there's an aspect of celebration and illumination, perhaps even ascension. And it's like derivatives of 5, which is also your number, Taurus. So it's like derivatives of 5, like we have 5 and 15. There could be specific patterns that you're seeing in your energy expansion. I'm seeing like a number pattern, like 5, 15, and it's multiples of 15 or whatever. Like there's patterns to it. And it's almost like a numerical rhythm that's expressing itself. It could be, I'm thinking mathematical expressions in terms of pi, and the way that the Fibonacci sequence is like, Fibonacci sequence, I think that's it's like in everything. Fibonacci. Anyways, there could be something like that where there's like a mathematical probability or of something happening as well. Probability is not the word I was thinking of, but but it's like you're being called to operate from a higher place as opposed to in the details. So it's about observing and not absorbing right now. Let me pull more here. I'm going to pull from the Zen Tarot here and see where we go. I love the view from my apartment. Oh, it's gorgeous. It's like over the city and, the city where I live. And it's snowing out and the trees are just covered with snow, and I have a parking garage that I park in so I don't have to clean my car, which is really nice right now. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives? Maybe you need to enjoy the view. Maybe you need to enjoy the view of what you're doing. I'm hearing too many hot takes makes you a dull boy. What? I don't know. Maybe you're listening to too many people or taking in too much information that's so freaking random. Like all work and no play makes so-and-so a dull blah, blah, blah. Like all of that. It's like too many hot takes. Oh my gosh. It could be needing to be free from other people's opinions, right? To follow your own heart too, right? where it's like this distractibility, like look over here, look over here. It's like all these different magic tricks, and that could be part of this like ringmaster of scrutiny, where it's like you're like people, and that's the goaltender energy that was coming in the original, the daily creative part was like you're reacting as opposed to responding. But reactivity is also, it's a form of, is it the form of mastery that you're seeking, right? Is it a form of mastery that you're seeking, or does it just give you a sense of control, right? So it's that difference. So what came out was the 6 of Cups, and that is the dream. The dream. Could be dreams and dreaming that are important right now. I know typically dreams are quite important to me, and like they don't have to express, like people show up in them, and it doesn't necessarily, some of it means something symbolically, and then other times it doesn't. Like it's really up to interpretation. But I feel like the dream, this could be a dream that you had when you were younger, but I also feel like this is sort of like you reflecting on that, a dream that you had for something, but almost like it's almost coming across as like a 5 of Cups inflected. So I feel like maybe you're hesitant to step into this power. You're hesitant to own your power to do this. This could be part of a psychic gift that you have in terms of dreaming, but you may be hesitant to own it, because you're used to placing yourself outside of the energy of the realization of it, the fulfillment of that. Experiencing. It's the 3 of Wands. And again, remember I talked about being in the moment, presence, 3 of Wands, right? So experiencing, I feel like that's like, it's like you need to, the 3 of Wands isn't just about like waiting for your ships to come in. I feel like that's also what you're doing with the energy while you're waiting, right? And we can frustrate our energy because we just sit in this loop of waiting, and that just becomes all that we do, instead of seeing those moments as opportunities to sink into ourselves and ask ourselves how we are really doing in our bodies, how we are really feeling in our bodies. And then we have this integration, which is exactly, I heard the word integer earlier and I didn't say it, and I should have. Freaking intuition, right? But integer as like this mathematical equation of integration in some capacity. Like, I don't know, I might be speaking to a math nerd. I am not that. I am a word nerd 200%. But integration here, I feel like that, like there's something about coming into balance, right? Like you're integrating the parts of you that are this sort of like fiery air, and also this, watery air. Like it could be fire and water. You could be integrating those aspects of yourself. It could also be your sun and moon sign as well. But I think that you have to integrate the dream that you've held really tightly to. I'm almost seeing a 4 of Pentacles, Taurus. So like you've held really tightly to this dream, and you've questioned whether it can come to fruition because you're busy goaltending, like this over here, this over here, this over here. And like you've been just trying to balance the everyday, but you're being called into something slightly higher than that and more elevated than that in terms of your creative expression and what you're here right now to give birth to. Because we're here to give birth to this big life aspect of things, but then in the everyday, in the weeks, in the moments, in the months, there are different things that we can also bring to life equally so. And I feel like that's what you're being called to do, but there's a certain presence that you need to bring to this experiencing. There's a certain presence, and there's that quote, I'm seeing this very clearly, all that you touch turns to gold, but almost like all that you touch, it's like it turns to fire, not in a bad way. It's like I'm almost seeing it as like this capacity for you to spread passion through everything that you do and through others. And like, it's like that very, like, it's like a passionate embrace of the present moment. And the way the present moment wraps its arms around you too. But I feel like that could be something that you may have, fire water combos in your chart as well. So that could be it in terms of the integration piece here. But I feel like there's this softness that is meeting the fire, because it's very interesting that there's like fire water here, right? Fire water in terms of integration. Which is often seen in masculine feminine traits. But I don't, maybe this is like a non-binary view too, right? Like this is like moving beyond the spectrum of binaries, moving beyond the spectrum of gender as well. Like there could be a way that you're transcending that in terms of roles, because maybe you felt like, you know, and this is more water and fire, right? So it's like there's something that you're, I mean, directly experiencing, but there could be something that you're going through, or a realization that you're having about the dream that you had of something or for something, and the way that it can move. And I'm hearing foresight, like it could be that you had a belief that was predicated on something else, or you had this goal or thing that you wanted to work on that required one aspect of you, and now you're integrating another aspect, and it's helping you to see beyond what that dream was. And it's like a sweetness, right? Because we have the Six of Cups here, right? And that's where it's almost like there's like that spectrum of experience that you're seeing, and then you allow yourself to feel it, and that's where the sweetness gets in. Like that's how the light gets in here, Taurus. So it's like allowing spirit to do some of the legwork and the groundwork for you, and that's where you become more integrated and aware. Ordinariness, Eight of Pentacles. And I love this because it's like the light gets in the everyday, right? You can be caught up in the minutia, yes, and there's a difference between being caught up in the minutia, and I've talked to people about this before. You know, I have experienced it where people, you know, said that I found them boring, and it's so interesting because you know, what does boring even mean other than not enough, right? So it's like it's so fascinating because you know, and I feel like we need that, not in terms of boring, but it's just like we need a sense of groundedness, you know, specifically because I feel like, so the way this is coming through, there's like one lane in my brain to get all this info through, and Spirit's like, here, and like throws all these little like micro beads, like, but it's like you're being called to integrate a higher knowing or knowledge, like, and it could be light codes, it could be, you know, integrating these things from an invisible spectrum is what I'm seeing here, from an invisible spectrum. And it's lending itself really beautifully into the way that it adds all of this rich color to your everyday. It adds this rich color to your everyday, and it changes the way that you experience like the everyday. What people might be like, that's mundane, and it's like that's mind numbing. Like it could even be like you have work that feels mind numbing at times, but it's like the way that you're integrating this energy and these knowings. It's like you're on your way somewhere, and you can see, right? We go back to the daily creative. You can see 6 plays in advance. You can see it in advance. So you're actually manifesting, and you're in this magician energy. But what you've been accustomed to being in right now is like handling all of the administrative work of that is actually supposed to be Spirit's job. So when you let go and step into this Queen of the Light energy, you begin to engage in this spiral dance with Spirit, and that becomes a doorway. That becomes a doorway through which so much light gets in, and also so much good, and this knowing that can then arrive, right? And it's like, maybe this is like the realization of a dream, the realization of a dream. But I feel like there's something that's more integrated about the way that you're approaching this. And again, I go back to the daily creative reading, Taurus, in that there's something that you do or something about you that you don't pay much attention to or give it much mind, because you're like, well, that's just who I am and that's how I am. So but how does that actually make a difference? Like because it's so ordinary. Like it's so ordinary for you. Ordinariness, like it's so ordinary. It's actually funny because Cale McCarr, the example that I use, his number is 8. That's the 8. And just further to the point, like it's further confirmation that that's exactly the metaphor that's meant to be used here. But it's like that. It's like the what people may consider the mundane. It's like where your light gets in. There's something that you do that's just magic in the everyday, and that is the thing that you need to celebrate and call forward about yourself. I love this energy. Like it feels so good. It feels so good. Like it's like you're allowing yourself to be celebrated for something that you do every day. And it could be other people just giving you compliments, right? It could be other people building you up, and you seeing that you bring that every day, and that shifts the way you perceive yourself not in a way that's like groundbreaking for your self-esteem or self-confidence, but I mean maybe, but it's also just more so that it helps you to realize further steps along the path. It helps you to realize more about yourself, which then acts as a gateway for more good, right? Because I go back to that spiral, like make the grade with flying colors. Remember, you signed up for this. So I think about that in terms of like soul path and different aspects of that, right? And maybe sometimes the reward is not the expression of that aspect of your purpose or path or whatever, but maybe the reward here is like remembering that you were invited to express yourself here in this form, and that's like that you came here for that reason, that you came here for a reason. Maybe that's where you need to be right now, in that understanding and knowledge and awareness. That could be it as well, right? So let me pull from my Gigantico deck of the two Gabrielle Bernstein decks here. So we're going to pull from that. Ooh. A couple things just fell out. So this was on the bottom and it kind of spoke to me. My fearless freedom lights up the world. I think about that with the Leo energy here, right? This strength card, that fifth house, like that shining, right? My fearless freedom lights up the world. And it could be the way that you perceive your freedom and move towards it. But I think it's also remembering that when you express yourself freely, that's how I feel this is showing up, the Chariot. Expressing yourself freely is what helps to light up the world, right? Because it also gives other people permission to do the same. So, yeah. Okay. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives and for my Taurians as part of that as well? My Taurian creatives. The moment I realign with love, clear direction is presented to me. A little bit of a Rorschach test there, but yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of noise. Like there's a lot of noise around you. And I mean, not just because of the sirens outside, but it just feels like there's a lot of noise, right? And I think of this ringmaster of scrutiny where it's like there's so much that you're responding to, right? And there's this little point of focus that if you stay in that place, like that's the clear direction, not in terms of a bullseye, like, oh, nailed it, that's the one. But just, it's like aligning not just with love, but it's like you realign with the part of you that is like, it's like, this is, oh, okay. I have no nails. Well, not enough, but this energy here, the Chariot, when you realign with love, that's what that is. It could be Cancerian energy too. The more I attune my energy with appreciation, the more the universe will deliver. And again, I go back to the ordinariness. Like I see this as this orchard, right? This orchard energy, where it's like there's like appreciation in the everyday is going to open something up for you. But not from a place of like, that will be the thing that fulfills you. It's more so like the slipstream that helps you to integrate everything else. It's like the wings of awareness that something is going to become apparent to you through. Oh, hi. This little bean came to say hello. Hi. So cute. She likes to sit like this. She's just so sweet. Okay. This is usually Eva's job, but do you want to clear the decks? No, that's not something for you. Okay. Here you go, baby. Oh, there we go. She's so dopey. You could tell she was sleeping. Cat hair flying everywhere. Okay. Spirit, what messages do you have for my Taurians to close out this reading? Oh, hey. That's not for you. Oh. She's so cute. She loves Eva so much. This I call her Ella Bella, and then just call her Bo Bella, and then it's Bella other times. So, um, anyway, but she loves Eva so much, so she just like follows her around everywhere, and Eva's like, ugh. It's so cute. It's so cute. I'm sure Eva will eventually warm to her, but yeah, it's adorable. So she just like creeps up behind Eva just to sniff her. Yeah, she's right there, and then Eva's just a little bit further over. Hey. Come on. So ridiculous. I just don't want it to turn into like Hiss Fest 2022. You have what it takes, Taurus. You have what it takes. Maybe you're doubting yourself. But this is also like, we can dismiss the ways that our light shines the brightest because we're like, well, it's just, oh, you know, it's like something I do every day. And then we like dismiss that. Oh, hang on. Come on. I totally just dropped the tarot deck. That's fine. I'll get it after. These cats. Okay, so Taurus, I feel like, and maybe this is like, you know what's coming through right now is that this is like what I'm seeing with my cats. That, well, my cat and then my roommate's cat is like, it's like this way that you're like breaking up conflict, right? This Five of Swords energy. It's like you're breaking up conflict and you're just responding, so that it's difficult to actually sit through and receive the messages and stuff like that. Like maybe that's something to consider too. But maybe a little self-doubt, like you don't think you can do it, so you just default to the things that you know. You default to the things that you know because you're a little bit disconnected from what's true for you and what you can do. And it's not about focusing on what you can't. It's about the fact that maybe you've been a little focused on just like other things. Like there's other things that you've had to tend to. And that's very Capricorn energy in terms of the Horse King and the King of Pentacles that was down here too, right? Like that's very much like, well, I just got to do it. Like, right? Like it's not glamorous, but you just got to do it. So start where you are. And I think that's a really good message in terms of like, this strikes me as like Mars energy. So it could be to do with the Mars retrograde, where if you felt frustrated, I'm hearing Saturn retrograde as well. You know, some of the retrogrades are ending, but I feel like, let me close this. It's getting kind of distracting to me. You could have felt like your energies have been frustrated, and the point isn't to do everything all at once. The point is to start where you are. And maybe that's the bigger message too of the Three of Wands here. It's actually coming through quite profoundly that way, where the point isn't to come out as the Chariot right away, right? The point is to kind of give yourself the grace to take the journey of that this refusal is calling you through and into, right? This is about sinking into the refusal energy of this spiritual journey and this sort of branching off of them, right? Sinking into that journey through, so that you look at what may have been a power struggle where your fulfillment was concerned because you couldn't understand something, but there's something that is meant to flow really easily. And it goes beyond just the idea of like, you have what it takes. You need to believe that you do, but there's something about where you are, right? That presence, because we have experiencing the Three of Wands, right? There's something about where you are. Start where you are and just look around and notice. Notice where you are. Notice the fulfillment that you feel. Notice the times where you light up. And when you do, don't feel like you have to map it all out. And, you know, I often joke that my brain can sometimes work like that meme of Charlie Day in the room with the newspaper on the walls and all the red string. And he's like this. And, you know, you can don't feel like you need to be like that about it. Just notice. Notice where you are, that presence, right? That and it is a divine expression when you're in that presence, when you're able to see where you are and to feel where you are. And that's also that kind of movement forward, because when you feel where you are, then you can feel your way through. You can feel your way onward. You can feel the journey. Hey, listen, you two are so ridiculous. Okay, so the cats are telling me that it's time to wrap this shit up. So I am going to separate them. Come on, you two. Honestly, I love them. I love animals. Ella's just Ella's finding creative ways to test Eva's boundaries and to be like, how close can I be friends with you? How close can I be? So on that note, if this resonated, give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel. If you're not here already, just remember, start where you are. There's something really important about that. So, yeah, really profound. So, yeah, if you're joining from my subscriber base, thank you so much. And as always, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very, very well, my friends. Take care.